Okay, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vachaline Nivasesha Sunyavari Pashtatara Sadharine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so start with a question. What's the title of chapter 14?
The three modes of material nature.
Correct. Well done. Thank you. Hare Krishna. See, easy question. Okay. So, share. So we're on text. You can see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, great.
do.
Fantastic. Okay, we're on text 19. Text 18 was describe the destination. After giving a synopsis of the three modes, then the destination. This is an often quoted verse by Prabhupada, Udvagajanti Sattvasta. Yeah, the destination. So we read this last week. I think we did have a reading last week, as far as I remember. And then 14, 19. Okay, any readers out there?
I can do it.
Go ahead. Thank you so much.
Text 19. Nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada drashta anupashyati gunebhyascha param vetti madbhavam sodhigacchati.
Wow, great Sanskrit. Flowed effortlessly.
Translation.
Uh-huh.
When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work, then these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. Purport. One can transcend all the activities of the modes of material nature simply by understanding them properly, by learning from the proper souls. The real spiritual master is Krishna, and he is imparting this spiritual knowledge to Arjuna. Similarly, it is from those who are truly in Krishna consciousness that one has to learn this science of activities in terms of the modes of nature. Otherwise, one's life will be misdirected. By the instruction of bona fide spiritual master, a living entity can know of his spiritual position, his material body, his senses, how he is entrapped, and how he is under the spell of the material modes of nature. He is helpless, being in the grip of these modes. But when he can see his real position, then he can attain to the transcendental platform, having the scope of spiritual life. Actually, the living entity is not the performer of different activities. He is forced to act because he is situated in a particular type of body, conducted by some particular mode of material nature. Unless one has the help of spiritual authority, he cannot understand in what position he is actually situated. With the association of the bona fide spiritual master, he can see his real position, and by such an understanding, he can become fixed in full Krishna consciousness. A man in Krishna consciousness is not controlled by the spell of material modes of nature. It has already been started in the 7th chapter that one who has surrendered to Krishna is relieved from the activities of material nature. For one who is able to see things as they are, the influence of material nature gradually ceases.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Hare Krishna. Any immediate questions or comments on this? Excuse me. Yeah.
Do we start like suppose two devotees have an argument or a fight?
Oh.
Do they start looking for, am I in a proper mode of goodness or or start deciding what the other person is in mode of goodness or ignorance or what, and how to solve the solution? Because it happens all the time in the temple, so maybe you got a good idea.
It shouldn't happen all the time in the temple. Practically speaking, sometimes it does. Well, it very much depends on the specific situation you're speaking about, but what we're being asked here is to look at life from an objective perspective. So the idea, if we're educated in the symptoms of the modes of material nature, which is being given in this chapter, and Prabhupada gives an instruction that as devotees that we have to learn this. Where is it? It says here. Um, oh, that's yeah, here. Excuse, no, 19. Yeah, where was it? Um, oh, um, I can translate Similarly, it is here. Similarly, it is from those who are fully Krishna conscious that one has to learn this science of activities in terms of the modes of material nature. Yeah. So we have to learn the symptoms of the modes of material nature. And like connected to your question, it helps because then we can observe the modes in action rather than becoming captured in the dualities of the world. We are we are kind of somewhat educated by reading and studying Bhagavad Gita, so we can observe the modes of nature interacting. You understand?
Uh-huh.
So we're not really getting into who was right and who was wrong. We just understand, oh, this is the free modes of material. This is the mode of passion. This exchange is in the mode of passion. So you understand, we see it from an
Yes. Yes.
objective perspective,
Uh-huh.
and we're not, becoming victimized ourselves. Also, so it helps for us to be strongly situated as much as we can in a mode of goodness, because often we will have to deal with things or people or situations, or not often, more or less all the time, which is of the free modes of material nature. Yeah, so we don't want to become implicated. So we have to be quite strongly situated in a mode of goodness. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not always easy. Okay, it's relatively kind of, well, not, it should be, but for instance, well, we mentioned this before, keep your place or your situation in a sattva, clean and neat and organized. Yeah. But then when you're dealing with people or situations that are very passionate, the energy is very strong. So we may often be influenced by that energy, which means we're not strongly situated in the mode of goodness. So we kind of take the bait, you know. We
Okay.
kind of become lured into a passionate exchange. Why? Because we're in a mode of passion. Yeah. So we became attracted to it. Now, if we was in a mode of goodness, then we might deal with it in a different way. I'm sure we've all had the experience of dealing with the things or people or things in this world in different modes. And I'm sure we've all experienced the result. When we deal with someone in a mode of ignorance, we get a result. When we deal with someone in a mode of passion, we get a result. When we deal with someone in a mode of goodness, then we see the result. Yeah. So you understand? I'm not sure if I've understood the
Yes.
question. Difficult to really get into the details because the circumstances are very specific what you're speaking about. But we do have to kind of be educated and not be naive and understand that because generally we're aspiring devotees, so everyone is practicing devotion. They're not all um Shakti Avaisha or Uttama Adhikaris. We are not, you know. So you're gonna see sometimes devotees will have a passionate or an exchange, which is obviously not very sattvic. And then there could be offenses as well. So we have to be, that's why here it says one has to learn this science of activities in terms of the modes of nature. Otherwise, one's life will be misdirected. Otherwise, we will be misdirected. So that again, that's why this chapter is very important. We should understand. Did that help or anything on that, Mother Rajkishan?
Yes, yes, as I understand, I would have to be in a mode of goodness. Whether the other person is not, it
Oh,
doesn't matter.
definitely. Yeah,
And then reacting in that way.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
And it can be very disarming if someone's in a mode of goodness or you're in a mode of goodness and someone, it's actually quite mystical. Just by being in the mode of goodness, you can see if someone's in a mode of passion, you can, what's it mean? You can have a dramatic effect where you're not taking the bait and so to
Yeah.
speak, and your influence is positive. But it's not so easy. It's very, I mean, yeah, it's not so easy to get caught out. It can happen suddenly.
Mhm.
Suddenly a situation arises which just kind of runs you over. You suddenly all of a sudden there's an intense a situation gets intense and exchange gets intense and it's all happened in a matter of minutes. And you was doing quite well before that, or at least you thought you was. And then all of a sudden you're entangled in a very unpleasant exchange with a devotee or some or non-devotee. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Hare Krishna. Welcome over Chandravali and others who've joined us. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining. Anything else on this? Oh, let me just so yeah. So this is a slight different context now. So this is describing again when we're properly seeing all activities and no other performers at work than the modes of material nature. Yeah, so we look at Ukraine and Russia or Israel and Palestine or take your pick. There's plenty to choose from. People fighting in this world, but we understand it's the modes of material nature. Yeah, and he knows the Lord, so ultimately know Krishna. Yeah, that's the Bhakta. Krishna's transcendental. Then one attains. Interesting, isn't it? If one sees with this vision, one attains a spiritual nature. It's just a modes of material nature. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to ask a question.
Yes, please.
Um, on auspicious, I'm just going to ask you about the pujari anyway. An auspicious day,
Okay.
like you have, we're not going to bring pujari thing into it, but I want to know how.
Yeah.
So there is like a couple of devotees, few, well, this Sunday was 3, get into really passionate mood and arguments and this and that, but they are good, all good at their own services. So you can't say you could do without any one of them because they are good.
Yeah.
But being in that situation, being maybe tired or something, I don't know, but they really were loggerheads with.
Yeah, don't get, yeah, I say the same. Yeah, don't get into it too much. Just understand the modes of material nature.
Uh-huh.
Just
I
keep
know.
it like it's a modes of material nature. Here it is. It's mode of
Yeah.
passion. It's just modes
Yeah,
of material
because
nature.
they're good. They're good at their services, really good at their services.
Yeah, yeah.
How
But it's
to
going to be like that. It's going to be quite mixed up, you know. You got devotees who are very sincere and they're very good at the service, and the time, the place, and the circumstances. Sometimes it gets quite passionate, and we drop things and do things. But try not to take it too seriously. They're doing their best, and the situation, the situation sometimes in festivals it does get a bit intense, but we want to see it for what it is. It's all ultimately under the umbrella of blissful service to the Lord. And sometimes devotees get a little bit enthusiastic, which kind of rubs up people the other way, you know. So just try and have a good heart about it. As long as devotees are not literally physically attacking each other, that's something different. And that's, I mean, that's something else. But unless, as long as I'm not making, in vindictive offenses and becoming nasty, then that's something else. But if it's just a run of the, things are going on and this is happening because this, because it's quite intense, you've got to expect it. Don't know if that helps.
Well, like you said, vindictive, like using really bad words, nobody likes you, everybody knows what you, I mean,
I don't know
how
what
do you
other
cope with
Luda's here, and she's not been to our temple, but I don't know what she must think of our temple hearing all this.
sorry. Okay, anyway.
Hope you don't mind, but it is Chandravali speaking. It's not as bad as it sounds. Go on. Yeah, you finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it's different if it gets but sometimes we just gotta, sometimes we gotta, just put our hands in the air and que sera, sera. You know, this person's like this and that person's like that. Well, okay, let's do our best. It's not ideal, what
Mhm.
can you do?
Okay.
All right.
It's been like that for years, so I suppose I just have to learn to live with it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Krishna may be well accepting their service,
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
The mood is there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it gets a quite, yeah, and in the spiritual world as well, it gets quite intense, the exchange,
Yes.
but it's
Yes.
different, All right, let's go on to text 20, shall we?
Shall I do the next one?
Yeah, go ahead. Nikki.
Text 20.
Uh,
Kunan itan atityatrin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukher vimukto mritam ashnuti. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Purport. How one can stay in the transcendental position, even in this body, in full Krishna consciousness, is explained in this verse. The Sanskrit word dehi means embodied. Although one is within this material body, by his advancement in spiritual knowledge, he can be free from the influences of the modes of nature. He can enjoy the happiness of spiritual life even in this body, because after leaving this body, he is certainly going to the spiritual sky. But even in this body, he can enjoy spiritual happiness. In other words, devotional service in Krishna consciousness is a sign of liberation from material entanglement. And this will be explained in the 18th chapter. When one is freed from the influence of the modes of material nature, he can enter into devotional service.
Okay, thank you. So hands up if you want to enter into devotional service. Sure, a few hands will go up. Yes. So this is how to do it, to be free from the influence of the modes of material nature. Again, it's not easy because the whole material world is made up of the modes of material nature. Yeah, so how do we transcend it? Well, first by understanding it, by knowledge. It's what this whole chapter is about. And at the same time, cultivating Krishna consciousness. So when the embodied being is able to transcend the three modes associated to a body, so it can become, doesn't mean they stop getting old. It says here become free from old age. It doesn't mean, you're not gonna get to the age where you get a free bus pass pension. That's all going to still happen, but it's not influencing but your consciousness is already situated on the spiritual platform, so it's of no consequence really how old you are or whatever, because you're not influenced by your material body, which is influenced by the modes of material nature. So that's when you're actually free then. Although you're embodied, you're actually free because you're not you're not enslaved to the dictates of the body, which is just the free modes of material nature. And then it
Mm.
says here, then you can enjoy spiritual life. Yeah. Then you can enjoy
Mm.
the nectar of the soul. You can enjoy the nectar of self-realization. Yeah. There's 3 verses like that in Gita that one becomes one can taste this knowledge. One actually tastes it. One actually tastes happiness. One actually developing this knowledge can enjoy nectar even in this life.
What a long way to go.
Yeah, well, we're on the way. That's the main thing.
Yes,
We're on the way.
because we are so affected by the 3 modes of material nature that trying not to get entangled in it, it can be quite difficult. Like you say, unless you're in Krishna consciousness and you look at things spiritually rather than get entangled in the material modes. You have to be so focused within.
That's it, yeah. But the good thing is you get every day you can try again.
Yeah.
You made a mess the previous day. Okay, this time, Krishna, I'm not going to get entangled in an argument like that. I'm not going okay, next day, start again. And we learn, and over the years you become wise, you get wisdom. Over
Mm.
the years you learn to be a bit, you do learn, 1, 2, 3, 4 years associating devotees, practicing devotional service, then hopefully we can learn and gain wisdom. But yeah, but it comes, so something doesn't come overnight. It comes from experience. But
Mm.
definitely, I'm sure we're doing better than what we was before we took up Krishna consciousness.
Yes, you
So
let it go quicker.
yeah, we had no idea whatsoever. We're just completely enslaved and pushed, just like a football being kicked around the field, by by the modes of material nature getting kicked around in the material world
Mm.
and forced to take birth because of being entangled in the modes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some positive there. We're on the right path, and now we're hearing about the modes of material nature, and so becoming more aware of it.
I
So,
sup- mm.
go on.
I was just saying, I suppose you take this, if you're not in Krishna consciousness or devotional service, the 3 modes of material nature can affect you until death, and you take that because you're at the time of death, you're carrying that,
Yeah,
whatever. So you will take birth again because you haven't finished that business because it's still in your mind.
yeah, that's why it said this that verse we just number 18. Um Udvam gajanti sattvasta madhyatitanti rajasaha chakkani gunavrittista adho gajanti tamasa. So describes here those who situate in mode of goodness go upwards, those in mode of passion live in the earthly planets, and those in mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. So yeah, so everything is the modes of material nature, this whole material world and this every in I think 11th canto, um every everything we see, every smell, everything, every turn we take is all the modes of material nature.
Setting us up for the next life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what causes us to take birth again because of the influence of the modes of material nature. So Arjuna's quite at this point he's becoming quite interested in this subject. It sounds very lofty, you know. So Arjuna wants to know what's the symptoms? How can we understand someone who's transcendental to these modes? As this is the next verse, and these verses are really wonderful because it describes how a person is related to the earlier question in chapter 2. How does he sit? How does he walk? How does he live? So Arjuna wants to know. So this is being described here in chapter 14. What's a symptom of one who's transcendental?
Mm.
Yeah. And we can hear it, and we can hear this, and we can impersonate it, or we can try and practice it, and that will invoke the mode of good, invoke Sudasattva or the mode of goodness. Anyway, let's any other questions here on chapter on text 20, and we'll go on to 21 and hear about the symptoms. Then we'll check the. Okay, that's quite a. Okay, anyone like to read this one? Text 21.
Yeah, I can read.
Go ahead.
Yeah, text 21. Okay. Kerlinga is Trin Gunane Ran Etan Atito Bhavati Prabhu Kim Achara Katam Chaitams Trin Gunan Adivartate. Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature? Purport by Srila Prabhupada Jai. In this verse, Arjuna's questions are very appropriate. He wants to know the symptoms of a person who has already transcended the material modes. His first inquiries of the symptoms of such a transcendental person. How can one understand that he has already transcended the influence of the modes of material nature? The second question asks how he lives and what his activities are. Are they regulated or non-regulated? Then Arjuna inquires of the means by which he can attain the transcendental nature. That is very important, unless...
No, sorry.
Next page.
Go on.
Unless one knows the direct means by which one can be situated always transcendentally, there is no possibility of showing the symptoms. So all these questions put by Arjuna are very important, and the Lord answers them.
Okay. So a good example we're going to see in the persona of Prabhupada. We have Prabhupada's videos, etc., and lectures, especially his videos we can see and appreciating Prabhupada. And mainly one pastime where we may know that pastime where it's the first, I think, Prabhupada trying to, he's directing disciples in the first Vyas Puja, how to offer him, how to do it. And it's the complete fiasco. Like, for instance, he asked for fruits, to decorate the kunda, because we know that's quite straightforward. But they thought, because they've never seen it before, they thought he wanted fruit salad. So they bought a bowl of fruit salad. And Prabhupada was angry at them. He was physically angry, and he was, shouting at them and angry. And then at one point, one hippie guest, he said to Prabhupada, I think from behind, something like, Swamiji, why don't you just chant Hare Krishna? Instead of angry. So if Prabhupada was not transcendental, if Prabhupada was in the mode of passion, he might say, well, who do you think you who are you to tell me, you silly hippie? Get out of here. Yeah. But Prabhupada heard it and he said, that's a good idea. He got out his beads and started chanting. Anyway, just a small example, but Prabhupada, you're going to see this if you watch videos of Prabhupada. He's completely a Vaikuntha man where he's not influenced by the modes of material nature at all. He's completely situated in this Suda Sattva. So, and also our respective senior devotees and, spiritual masters, you can see this is how they carry themselves. Hopefully. Okay, so let's hear now. We're all excited to hear now about these symptoms. Perhaps I can have a read of this. Four verses. Okay, really quick. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Pakasham cha pavittim cha moham eva cha pandavaha tatvrishti sampavittani nanipitani kansati utsina vat asino gane yadno vichalyate gunavatanta itivam yo vichishtati nengate. Sure, some of you might recognize these words. Yeah, samodukkha. We all recognize that. Yeah. Samodukkha sukha swasta Samo soloshtama kanchana. So Lotrashna thing is like store, and kanchana means gold. Get the idea? Samoloshtama kanchana tulya priyos dearas. So dear, tulya nindatmani samstutihi. So ninda means blasphemy, I think. Manopanayas manopamanayoto yas tulyo maitri pakshayo shavaramba parityagi gunatita sa uchate. Yeah, this is repeated a couple of times in Gita, these symptoms. Definitely second chapter, and here again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed for all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of material nature. Yeah. So such a person is not of this world. This person is of the spiritual world. Because if they transcended the modes, they have to be in some mode. They can't. So that means they're in the Suddha Sattva mode. They're in the spiritual world mode. Yeah. So let's read it. Okay. Okay. Arjuna submitted these different questions, and the Lord answers them one after another. In these verses, Krishna first indicates that a person transcendently situated has no envy and does not hanker for anything. Okay. Why doesn't someone envy? I ask the question. Why are people envious? Or
Because they want to be better than the other person.
yeah, they want to be better than the other person. That what means they feel a lacking. There's something which others have, which like they don't have, and therefore they feel a sense of anger towards that person because they have something that they don't. So they're envious. But if someone is Krishna conscious, then they're completely satisfied. So they're not envious of anyone, even the most richest person on the planet. There's no envy towards them because the devotee is completely satisfied because there's nothing he hankers for. So Prabhupada said, he has no envy and does not hanker for anything. If you're hankering for something material and someone has that and you don't have it, then there's a good chance you might be envious of the person. But if you're completely satisfied, then there's no envy. Yeah. He has no envy, nor does he hanker for anything. They're both connected. When a living entity stays in this material world, embodied by the material body, it is understood that he is under the control of one of the modes of material nature. Okay. When he's actually out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the modes of material nature. All right, so what do? We remain neutral, Prabhupada says here. But as long as he is not out of the material body, he should be neutral. Yeah. Don't get entangled. Remain neutral. Don't take sides. Yeah, remain neutral. Because it's all the modes of material nature. And as soon as you take sides, then you're also entangled in the modes of material nature. So what to do? Yeah, and anyone here who has a body is influenced by the modes. So he should be neutral. He should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord so that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. So that will happen in due course of time when we have a different identity, and that identity is a spiritual one, as the Lord's servant. So we have to cultivate that. Will be forgotten. When one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for sense gratification. And when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops because he's getting gratification from devotion. He's fully satisfied. Yeah. But when one transfers one does not need this material body, and he does not need any questions along the way while we're commenting. Please feel free to ask. Yeah. One does not need this material body, and he does not need to accept the dictations of the material body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act. Okay. But as spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? Okay. He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. Sometimes we speak like that. We're going through bad health. Oh, it's material body. But here we're being taught something else, to be neutral. Expect it. You know? Yeah. The qualities of material modes in the body will act, but as spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. It's transcendental. Thus, transcendently situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. Okay. It's interesting, isn't it? You read Prabhupada's purports, and if you really stop and look at them, like here he says, there's no need to try to become free from the influence of modes of material nature. But this whole chapter is dedicated to that. So far, but there's no need. We have to, how does he become aloof? He does not. So if we don't desire to enjoy the body, then automatically we're going to transcend the modes of material nature. What's that verse where one is so absorbed in Krishna consciousness? I think that's coming up. Mamcha yo vyapacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagonun samita yatam brahma bhuya kalpate. One who's engaged in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, they transcend the modes of material nature. But if we're not on that stage, it's good for us to understand about the modes, yeah, and cultivate the mode of goodness.
I was thinking that if you are like totally engaged in doing and performing devotional service, one way or the other, hearing, chanting, deity worship, whatever,
Yeah.
cooking, whatever, then you constantly, the mind is so busy constantly doing things that you don't think about the body or...
Yeah, that's the idea.
Like, you know, when you go into the temple and, you know, yes, I'm getting it. The minute you go through that door, everybody must have felt it. You know, even if you had a headache or a leg ache or this or that, you don't even think. You cook, you do whatever it needs to do. It's like you're in bliss, right?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. That's the practical experience. When
Yeah.
when we are engaged in devotional service, then we feel a sense of relief
Mm.
on the material body and feel a sense of relief on the modes of material nature. Yeah, that's a good example. You become,
Yeah.
what Prabhupada means by automatically. It doesn't mean you just sit, you just sit in the sofa all day and automatically. It means no, you engage in the activity, you engage in, you're not influenced just trying to satisfy the senses of the body. You actually engage in devotional service, and then you're gonna find yourself gonna be free from the modes of material nature.
Yes. Even if you got aches and pains, you'll see how Krishna is like helping you when you engage in doing services. Krishna
Yeah,
just,
then when you stop, they come back.
well, it helps, you know, it
Yeah.
helps with the consciousness.
Yeah. So this is the principle, This is the principle, which to absorb ourselves as much as we can in devotional service. You know? But at the same time, we're being asked to be, as we read before, we're being asked to be educated in the three modes of material nature. So that's going to help us as well. So we have the positive and the negative. You know, there's always two things we should do and things we should avoid. Isha Upanishad describes that. So what should we do? Engage ourselves fully in Krishna consciousness. And what should we not do? Not be subject ourselves to the modes of material nature. And how can we do that? By understanding this chapter. But ultimately, if we're fully engaged in pure devotional service, we're going to be transcendental. But we might not be on that level. Okay. Like, so he need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. So we discussed that. Yeah. The next question concerns the dealings of a transcendently situated person. The materially situated person is affected by so-called honor and dishonor offered to the body. But the transcendently situated person is not affected by such false honor and dishonor. Has anyone experienced that, being dishonored before? That's his question. Or being honored? They're all the same, actually. They're all the same from a transcendental perspective. They shouldn't get too averse to one or too attached to the other. It's just the same thing. Yeah, we had this. I think I mentioned this experience before, where I was doing book distribution, going door to door, and I knocked on this one door, and this lady, she opened the door. She gave me so much verbal abuse. I mean, even the neighbors were looking out the window. It's like, hey, it was for her. For me, even knocking on the door as a Hare Krishna was the greatest offense that could possibly happen. The fact that I walked up her garden path and knocked on the doors, and she slammed the door, crash, and actually I had to leave before she slammed the door. You know, I better get out of here. And then the next door I knocked on, there was no answer. You know, I was still feeling the effects of the dishonor. Then a third door knocked on, a person opened the door and said, "Wow, Hare Krishna. Oh, what books do you have?" It was such a wonderful exchange. I bought three big books, and it was like it was between night and day, you know, honor and dishonor. But you shouldn't get too attached to one or the other. Because if I become really attached to being honored, then what's going to happen when I get dishonored? Because I only want to be honored. I only want to be honored in this world. I'm determined I'm only to be honored. Then when you're dishonored, to that degree you're attached to being honored, you're going to be upset. But if you can be neutral, I mean, it doesn't mean we're like robots and someone offers us some praise and there's no reaction. No, we accept, but we also understand that around the corner there's going to be something else coming at us, you know. That's one thing that book distributors learn with your preaching on book. You reach so many different situations, and you learn, you know, that around, yeah. Any comments on this or questions of being honored and dishonored? It's part of being in this material world. You're not going to get away from it. So best to be neutral. Um, yeah, where was we?
It's good if people don't praise you, or just good to be somebody behind the scene and do
No,
that.
it's the point. That means you're adverse. You should be neutral.
Mm.
People are going to offer you some praise. Oh, Mother Chandravali, you've been serving you cook wonderful Raj Bhoga, you've been cooking so many years. And, you know, if you're trying to, you know, you should be neutral to it in one sense, except, you know, Hare Krishna. Uh, you understand?
Yeah, it's tiring.
Yeah, well, yeah. Imagine like we just said Vyas Puja, my Guru Maharaj is Vyas Puja, and, you know, the spiritual master has to sit there all day hearing the praises of his disciples. Well, my Guru Maharaj doesn't, you know, allows about 5 or 6 devotees to read offerings, then it's kirtan.
Mm.
But yeah, so we're going to have to learn this in the material world. We're going to have to we're going to get both. So Let's learn to be neutral. Yeah. He performs his duty in Krishna consciousness, does not mind whether a man honors him or dishonors him. He accepts things that are favorable for his duty in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he has no necessity of anything material, either stone or gold. There's another verse like that, isn't it? He looks at stone or gold as being the same. He takes everyone as dear friend who helps him in his execution of Krishna consciousness. And he does not hate his so-called enemy. Yeah. Anyone got any enemies out there?
Mm-hmm.
You have some?
Yes,
You shouldn't have.
I do.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, these get a bit more. These are different degrees. Like, for instance, to see equally as stone or gold, that's kind of, you can, yeah, because gold is not gonna, if you find a 1 ounce of gold, it's not going to mean you're going to chant better rounds the next day. It's not going to make any difference to your spiritual life, you know. So stone or gold, in that sense, there's nothing in it for us. It doesn't matter, riches or whatever. It's not going to help us in our Krishna consciousness. He takes everyone as dear friend who helps him execute, and he does not hate his so-called enemy. Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. Yeah. What did you just mention there, Mother Chandravali?
Have I got an enemy?
Yeah, have you got enemies? Yeah, we should not want to have enemies, and that's not easy. But no, the point, sorry, I'm going different directions, a bit tired. But then the next one is a bit more difficult. Okay, stone or gold, okay. But then when you're dealing with people and there's interaction, it's not things. That's more difficult to stay neutral and equipoised than it is to a lump of stone and a lump of gold. But when you're interacting with people and one of them is being inimical towards you, how to withhold or how to not have hate for them. And the way to do it is to understand it's just the modes of material nature. Again, back to that verse, it started, and one who sees the modes and nothing else. Yeah. This person is my enemy. This is the modes of material nature. I should not become an enemy in return. He does not hate his so-called enemy. Yeah. He is equally disposed and sees everything on an equal level because he knows perfectly well that he has nothing to do with material existence. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of temporary upheavals and disturbances. Okay, so this one is, I know Niranjana Swami, he had to deal because the situation in Ukraine and Russia, he's got disciples, hundreds of disciples, Russian, hundreds of Ukrainians, and he's in the middle. And it's, and sometimes devotees are not, they kind of do become affected, yeah, here by the political situation, you know. But here we're being encouraged not to. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of temporary upheavals and disturbances. Yeah. So we're not, we don't really want to get into the politics of this world. It's all the free modes of material nature, you know. He does not attempt anything for his own sake. He can attempt anything for Krishna, but for his personal self, he does not attempt anything. Okay. By such behavior, one becomes actually transcendently situated. And here's the verse which we quoted earlier. Yeah. So let's get straight into this verse and we can read this. We might go over a couple of minutes, but someone like to read this verse?
Shall I try? Shall
Yeah,
I
go
read?
ahead. Yeah.
Mam chayo vyabhicharina bhakti yogina sevate saguna samatityantan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Translation. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Purport. This verse is a reply to Arjun's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna's activities. Krishna's activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different plenary expansions such as Ram and Narayan. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in service of any of the forms of Krishna or of his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendentally situated. One should not also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient, and they possess all transcendent qualities. So if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. This has also been explained in 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire equality with Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are part of a gold mine. Thus, the living entity in its spiritual position is as good as gold, as good as Krishna in quality. The difference of individuality continues. Otherwise, there would be no question of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activities of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the individual person. Otherwise, there would be no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualification. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman, or freed from all material contamination. It is said in the Vedic literature, Brahmaiva sa Brahmai Piyati. One can attain the Supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as an individual soul.
Okay, thank you. So, different subjects Prabhupada brings up here. But any immediate questions or comments? So, this is quite a high grade of devotional service here. Mamcha yo vyapicharena, what is it? Sadgunansum, yeah. So, without fail. So, here, unfailing in all circumstances. Yeah, at once transcend the modes of material nature. So we might have so we might not be on this platform. That's why this chapter is quite important for us. Yeah. And Prabhupada also about becoming Brahman. It's the idea of becoming that So we're practicing to be devotees that we're not quite there yet. We are like apprentices. But actually, yeah, to actually engage in service to Krishna, you have to be on the same platform as Krishna. Yeah. So we're trying to obtain that platform. Yeah, we like here to be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Yeah. So unfailing in all circumstances. So some circumstances we might fail. So maybe some circumstances where we might fail, we might not make the grade. So it's good for us to be situated in the mode of goodness. But anyway, here we described it before as well. Also, if we can absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness, then, as Mother Chandravali was sharing, that we can feel it. We can feel the ease. We can feel a bit peaceful. We can feel a bit freedom from the material world just by engaging in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Just like I've just come back from, I just mentioned before as well, when we opened up, just come back from wonderful kirtan in New Vajradam, going for hours, like 10 hours, 9-hour kirtan. Also, so you feel like you feel like very purified, you feel very peaceful at heart. Yeah, so by fully engaging in, I show you all engaged in Radhastami service as well. Then you can feel some relief. Any final comments or questions here? I think we're coming towards the end of the chapter. 27. Oh yeah, one more verse in this chapter. That's text 27. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, dear devotees, for joining us for this nice discussion on continuing chapter 14 Bhagavad Gita. And next Monday we shall finish going to chapter 15. Hare Krishna. So remember some of these things. Yeah. Look out for the modes of material nature tomorrow. When you wake up, look out for the modes. And go for the mode of goodness. Yeah. If you see something that's sattvic, go for it. If you see something that's someone or something that's in the lower modes, then avoid it and just get into that practice. Okay, thank you everyone for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad ki jai. Gaura Premanandi Haribol.
Haribo. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Oh,
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Can't find the button to stop the show. Okay.
Let's never stop.
Never stop. Yeah, we'll just pause. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Gaura Premanandi.